Welcome back to the show, everybody. Swift countdown to ISO20022 and go live moment is on. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook for exclusive content. We are looking right now at $1.032 trillion market cap for crypto. Shout out to Coin Paprika. Download that app. Bitcoin right now, 19,700 plus. Ethereum, 1,600 plus. We see XRP at the number 7 spot at 33 cents. If you have not checked out I Trust Capital for crypto IRAs with 0 monthly fees, 1% transaction fee. I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, you're missing out on an incredible opportunity. Lots of different products to choose from, incredible pricing, obviously, as you see right here. They recently introduced staking. Click the link for the best deal for I Trust Capital. The only thing better than buying crypto is buying tax-free crypto, and you could do it with them. XRP is number 2 on the top 10 current trending searches. How about that, according to Lunar Crush? I'm surprised it's not number 1, but I'm not surprised that ADA is number 1 either. Shout out to Charles Hoskinson. This is the new financial system clip here. Shout out to Z Master Flash for this one. You're going to hear Francis Hunt here talk to Carrie Stevenson about a new financial system, and we're going to have evidence that there is, in fact, a new financial system jumping off, and Swift is going to prove it to us right after this clip.
Don't get killed is part of getting rich, first of all, because those that survive and have held their money and assets in, fundamentally, things that will bridge the old system. We are in a period where a new system has ponied up next to an old mule who's slowly dying. It's my impression that the custodians are attempting to finish off that old mule so that they take away the option. So we've been parallel running the central bank digital tokens. This Bitcoin, I treat Bitcoin and crypto as almost an on-ramping strategy for capturing the libertarians into a belief system that this is the new way and you're escaping government.
That is such a key point right there. I've talked a lot on this channel about how Bitcoin is the shiny distraction for retail investors, keeping their hands off of gold by allowing them to purchase something like Bitcoin. He's making the same kind of a pitch right there. Pretty interesting point.
And once you've got the libertarians, everyone else follows because they don't question. And this is unfortunately the madness of crowds. You have to get the lead steers to charge, the rest just follow. And in essence, that's why they talk about herd immunity and various everything. We are still a crowd of humans. So the old system rails are falling. You've got your old iron horse chukka train that is getting down. There's this brand new monorail that's coming, which I believe will my assessment, I don't like using the word believe, but assessment is that will be central bank digital tokens after the next crisis. I think we are being run into the final crisis that will lead to the introduction of the new system.
I think that's so well said. And, you know, listen, and more evidence is jumping off that we're not crazy, everybody. We may not know all the details, but I tell you what, Swift is excited about it too. Get ready for the Swift Go revolution. They're not playing around. And I tell you, you know, to go along with that, here is a little bit about what they're talking about. Quick, easy, predictable, just how payments should be. We scroll down to new standard and low value international payments, you say. Well, let me tell you something. This made me think of this clip right here.
Comment on that. I would just note that, you know, for the kind of core banking architecture, I think there would probably be some changes needed in terms of the Federal Reserve System. But for, you know, smaller valuation or smaller amount payments, I think you already are seeing some blockchain-based systems being created that enable the movement of money. So I think there are examples out there. We talk about XRP or others that kind of offer this.
And there you have it. Now, that's Mr. Ahmed from PayPal. This is 2019, 2020 timeframe, somewhere in that area. It's got some time on it. But nevertheless, that was him from PayPal, Mr. Ahmed, testifying in front of Congress that Ripple and XRP could be used to make low-value payments easier and faster. He also mentioned there may need to be some changes within the Fed. We know that we've seen the Fed Now system, which is domestic, obviously. Michael S. Barr brought on as the VP Board of Governors, which is a former Ripple advisor. These things should help, shouldn't they? And when we're looking more, they're talking about this less than 3 months go live countdown that's happening from SWIFT now for ISO20022. Now, we understand, most of us do certainly, that ISO20022 is a new payment language, which really has been around for a while, but it is being adopted as a new standard, right? And this new standard will allow for the communication and the access to use the settlement of digital assets at some time when they choose to or not choose to do so. I would not expect this go live date, and I'd be pleasantly surprised if it did, but I would not expect this go live date to be really inclusive of digital assets at the moment. If I could just read this with the completion, this is from SWIFT. Completion of FinPlus RMA bootstrap and start early adoption. It has been busy last few weeks in the CBPR, which is cross-border payments remittances, I believe, group. World for our community. In particular, there has been further progress on messaging interface upgrades for the receipt and handling of multi-format MX messages. Now, though, everyone's focus should be on testing. There is only September to mid-November to prepare for the big go live date of 20 November. There you have that. Now, it does go on to say here, based on their feedback, we now expect 15 to 20% of total cross-border payments traffic to be originated in the ISO 20022 format at the start of a coexistence. Less than 1% of that is expected to carry rich data elements with no signs of increase through the first year of coexistence. So there again shows us that what we've been seeing over the last several years, which is a phase-in operation, right? And I am very, very excited to see this kind of motion taking place, no doubt about it. And I joined their group for more information as well. So now, look, let's take a look at this, because I want to remind everybody at the same time that that's happening. Don't forget about R3 and DTCC, Depository Trust Clearing Corporation, that has made their announcement that they will be working together as well to help settle derivatives and things back end. And we know the Digital Dollar Project sandbox has been announced with Ripple in it. We know that R3 can certainly be a gateway for the use of either Ripple's software if they need access to it, or XRP, the digital asset, or other digital assets. R3 is absolutely there as a mediary to be able to help SWIFT and other financial clients to onboard onto their system so they can easily get with this new set of payment rails and settlement options. This April, according to the Digital Dollar Project, the DTCC, the world's largest security settlement organization, said it is working with the Digital Dollar Project on stocks settlement project to test a tokenized CBDC. The DTCC's Project Lithium aims to explore atomic settlement in which the stock and money change hands simultaneously. While that use case may be wholesale, the DDP is also exploring retail and cross-border CBDC use cases. Apart from specific technology trials, the organization has also responded to several digital assets CBDC consultations conducted by the U.S. government. So that, to me, is extremely exciting. Now, let's take a look at this quick clip here, which I got from Leonidas. Shout out to Leonidas here. This is James Wallis. And what you're going to hear in this clip is he's being asked directly, what central banks are you working with, to James Wallis, head of central bank engagement from Ripple. He's going to give an answer just like Miguel Villas did when he was head of XRP Global Markets. He says here, we're working with many of them. They're mostly under non-disclosure agreements, so I'm not at liberty to share the details. We're working with each continent apart from Antarctica. Take a listen here.
Which central banks in which countries are you working on or working with? we're working with many of them. You know, they're mostly under non-disclosure agreements. So I'm not at liberty to share the details, but I would say, you know, we are working with them in each continent apart from Antarctica. You know, the study by the Bank for International Settlements estimates, I think, 80 to 85% of central banks are doing some work. We're at different stages. I mean, we have some active projects, and then we have some, you know, early stage discussions. A lot of the banks are still doing research rather than deploying projects. It's relatively early in the life cycle, I think, for CBDCs. I think it's going to be 2 to 3 years before, you know, major economies like the US or the Eurozone deploy a CBDC. China is obviously further ahead at the moment. They are well advanced on their pilots.
And I think that's such a great observation from him, that the larger banks like the central bank, the Fed, right, and places like that, they don't need to be in a hurry. And in fact, if you think about it, stablecoin legislation can help band-aid all of this and give the central banks, the larger countries and central banks like the Fed, more time to develop the right solution, which I hope is a wholesale back-end solution. And we have a private retail CBDC where we can put some things in place to make sure our privacy in transactions is respected, right, and protected. So there we have that. Now, here's ProCoin News talking about the article and the interview that I did with Bob Way. Says escrowed XRP being pre-allocated to banks is fair to say. Yes, he did say that. And I had a couple days of 3.5 hours. We did a prep session, 3.5 hour prep session before we ever recorded, a day before our actual interview. Bob Way is really a genius of a person, and not just for his amazing technical knowledge in this particular realm, but it's because he has that innate ability to be able to explain to regular people like myself exactly what's going on. And I did, in fact, ask him if it was similar and analogous to the music industry. As a matter of fact, I'll play this quick clip here when it comes to pre-allocation, which has been very controversial, but I just don't understand why. So take a listen to this clip here.
I also think it's important to remember about escrow that there could be portions along the way here that are allocated for entities like banks who understand we're not going to be like the record company. Put us on until we're going to get our blockchain together and all our this together and get their stuff in-house together. But it's waiting for them at a certain point as well. So is that a little too optimistic, or is that fair to say?
So let me expand on that a little bit, but that's generally fair to say. And that's
It's generally fair to say. And there you have that. And you know what? It is generally fair to say. And I'll tell you why. Because Brad Garlinghouse explained when put under the light, he was asked, and he did explain exactly that they do option contracts. It is not a guess. This is, pre-allocating XRP is not an opinion of mine anymore. And Brad Garlinghouse explains how they did it through options contracts. Let's hear this again.
It's quite funny. One of the big questions that I was asked when I was talking to people about XRP, they said, what price do you sell XRP to the financial institutions that you're dealing with here? Do you give them a discount, and is there a lockup? Can you answer those questions? Because this kept coming up.
Yeah, sure. So, let's use MoneyGram as the example. When MoneyGram is moving money from US dollar to Mexican peso, they're buying at market. They're not, there's no, special sweetheart deal there. There are times when we work with institutional investors who might say, hey, we want to buy $10 million of XRP, and we would have lockups that would prevent them from dumping. We don't want some other party buying a whole lot of XRP and dumping it on the market. And so we would hypothetically have restrictions about what they could sell and what, how often. And usually those are based upon volume in the market.
Yeah, so you might give them it slightly cheaper, but you say to them, hey, you're not allowed to sell it for 6 months, let's say, or a year.
Yeah, correct. That's basically correct.
And there you have it. That is Brad Garlinghouse acknowledging that they do options contracts, which means you've been pre-allocated a certain amount of XRP. But that, and listen, this is, he just said it, right? I mean, you can ignore it all you want, or you could just not like the idea because I shared it first, but that's okay. The reality is he said it, he admitted it. And if you don't believe it, that's fine too. You're welcome to believe whatever you like. But what that really means is that this is the article back in the day when we saw Ripple and R3 part ways. And what we learned from that case, although the details of the settlement were not disclosed, we know that they did, in fact, R3 was given an option and the right to buy 5 billion XRP at 0.0085 cents. We know Greg Kidd had an option of 1 billion XRP. We know these things. So you are welcome to not believe that things have been pre-allocated. You are welcome to ignore the fact that James Wallis has told you, as Miguel Villas has told you, that they are under non-disclosure agreements and we're working with many central banks. But at this point, you would have to, in order to not believe this, you would have to believe that line 82 of the SEC, that Ripple achieved wide distribution through non-cash agreements, the R3 option contract, the Greg Kidd option contract are the only ones that exist. That's what you would have to believe. And you would have to really believe at this point that Brad Garlinghouse is not telling the truth when he admitted to Julia Chatterley they exactly do that. Hell, at this point, disregard what Bob Way says, even if you don't agree with it. Look, I'm just giving you what's available to us. And if we all clearly understand, as retail investors, we are never going to find out because of non-disclosure agreements. So is there room for the details? Sure, you better believe there is. But certain amounts of this are not opinion anymore. They are really, truly facts. What the actual details of each relationship may be and who those relationships are with are still unknown. But I tell you this, as a retail holder and a speculator in this space, I'm damn happy to know every bit that I know at this point. I know more about this investment than anything else I've ever invested in my life. And I'm comfortable with the risk appetite that I have. Nothing I talk about is financial advice. But I see this question being asked here by Crypto Bull XRP. Would you wait 15 months for a $29 XRP? And how about 23 more months for $232 XRP price? Now, he's not guaranteeing that either. But what he is saying is that in this particular instance, he is seeing things that if the chart plays out historically and we get this bump, this fractional bump that we saw back in 1718, which lasted about 26 days or so, who knows what we could see? Will it repeat or will it just rhyme? However it goes, I think the end of this case is going to be very important for it to continue. And I don't rule out the fact that this case could go the distance. And when it does, it could provide a decision that may allow, best case scenario, may allow Ripple and XRP to move forward with customers in the US. We'll find out how it does or does not affect retail investors. And the SEC may be able to claim a win with a huge fine, but they may go on and appeal the decision and take it all the way to the Supreme Court. And why wouldn't they when we're talking about something that is a decentralized exchange for all the money in the world? I think the kind of finality from the Supreme Court would be just as fitting as the use case of the XRP ledger. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. Check out all the links underneath the video. Great products and services I use each and every day. I'll catch all of you on the next one.